Now let's add some elements to our design. One of the first and easiest things that you can place within your design is one of the logo sets that I've given to you in the project resources file. Remember, this logo comes in 3 different versions. So here's how to place one particular version into your design. If you go up to File and down to Import Embedded, let's locate the PDF for the grill logo. When we say place, the first thing it's going to open up is some options on how and what we want to place. At this time, you can select which version of the logo that you want. So for instance, if I wanted to see what the lighter color of the version logo looks like, I can say OK. You can see how it's placed within my design, and I can move it around and scale it. And we're going to place it right up here at the very top corner. Because it's a vector object, we can scale it to whatever size we need, and it's not going to lose any of the quality. You can hit Done or the checkbox once it's fixed. Also, if you ever want to turn off the guidelines that are around your area, you can go up to View, down to Show, and uncheck Guides. Command: is a great one to remember. If you like that version of the logo, it looks pretty good. But if we don't like it, let's see if we can replace it with another version. I can select the logo itself. Notice and remember, in your Layers panel, it has its own individual layer. So if I want to get rid of it, I can select a layer and then click on the little trash can at the very bottom to delete it away. And we'll say yes to that. One more time, let's go to File and Place Embedded. This time, when I say Place, I'm going to do the first page of it with a full color logo. And again, I can drag it over, scale it down, and place it where I think it should go and fit nicely within that first little column. This time I hit Return to lock in my transformation, and that's looking really good. Now let's focus on placing some of the food elements in each little part. Pay close attention to what needs to be placed and where. For instance, the beefsteak has a photograph that will go above it. So if we go to File, and this time let's go to Open, and choose the Food folder. Let's locate the beefsteak JPEG and say Open. When you do an open, this is going to open the image as a separate file. So notice there's beefsteak JPEG, and there's also the grill menu that we're working on as 2 separate little tabs up at the top. We need to choose the correct or the most appropriate way of highlighting the selected pixels, and we're going to copy and paste them over. Some of these are going to be a little bit easier than others. Now, depending on what we want to select, there can be some couple of different options. For example, notice that this plate is a nice rounded elliptical shape. It would be super easy to use the elliptical marquee to select it. So let's do it for this one. I'm going to click and drag and start my selection. Maybe a little bit hard to see, but remember, you've got a marching ants going around that particular edge. If you need to, you can hold down the space bar and drag it around. And as long as I'm holding down my mouse, I can click and drag and reposition it until the ellipse roughly matches the outline of the entire plate. Pretty good. I think that's looking good right there. All I want is a plate. I'm not worried about the background image. I just want to cut out that. Now with it all selected, we can go up to Edit, and let's choose Copy, or Command or Control C. With it copied, we can now click on our Menu tab. Let's go up to Edit and Paste. Command or Control V is what we need. Remember, when you copy and paste something into a document, it's going to have its own individual layer. One thing I encourage you to do is to double-click the name of the layer and rename it. Since the name of this dish is the beefsteak, I've renamed it that. The next thing we need to do is to transform this so that it's smaller and fits up at the top. If you use your arrow selection tool and you have auto select turned on and also show transform controls, you can select this object and notice that you get a nice bounding box that lets you click on it and scale it down. We'll zoom in so we can see the top a little bit better. I also encourage you to zoom rather than working it too small. You can see that it fits nicely up here, but being vertical, it kind of is awkward. So I'm going to rotate this just to one side. Let's go to this side. Let's go clockwise 90 degrees. And then I can scale it and place it inside of here. Once I'm done with this transformation, remember to either hit return or the checkbox up at the very top. Let's repeat this process for the Big Boy Burger. From here, let's go up to File and Open. Locate the Big Boy JPEG and say Open. And then remember, it'll open up as a separate tab at the top of your screen. Now, since this particular outline is a little bit amorphic, we may need to use some other selection tools. Some of the other ones that you could use could be your lasso tools. Remember, there's the polygon, the regular lasso, and the magnetic lasso tool. Any one of these would allow you to quickly outline and select it. Let's play around with the magnetic lasso tool. Remember, with the magnetic lasso tool, this gives you the ability to to look at the edge of your document or the edge of your selection and use the contrast around it. Make sure feather is set to 0, and you can play around with the amount of width and contrast that you want to work on. Also, it's very important for all these selection tools to make sure you're working in the normal selection mode that lets you outline it. With this done, we can click at the very top portion of it and simply move around. And right off the bat, I can see that it does a pretty good job of getting it, but there's still a lot of little details that are going to go into making sure it's selected correctly. So if the magnetic lasso tool is something you want to use, you're absolutely welcome to do it. If you find it is a bit too difficult, some other selection tools, let's deselect this and we'll click on deselect. Some other selection tools may be more appropriate. Underneath the lasso tools, the object, quick selection, and even magic wand tend to work well. Let's see how well the object selection tool works. Again, check your tool options, make sure normal is selecting, it's looking for objects. We'll do the rectangle and hard edges and everything. When I hover over this hamburger, it does a pretty good job of recognizing the outline of it. It even recognizes the difference between the reflection at the bottom and the hamburger itself. With one click, I now have a nice marquee going around everything that I need. So that was really fast and simple. With it selected, let's go up to Edit and to Copy. I did Cut, Command Z or Undo. Edit and Copy this time. Then we'll jump back over to our grill and Command V to paste it in here. Notice that when I pasted it, it gives me the layer. In this case, the layer, go away. The layer was below everything, so you can see how it's below all of the text that's on here, but that's okay. Use your Move tool, double arrows, click on the layer, and I've got my bounding box. I can click and drag to scale it down. By the way, if you don't see the bounding box around any of this, you can always go to Edit, to Transform, and here's where you can transform any part of the layer by scaling it, rotating it, or otherwise. Since we're doing simple scale and rotation, all of that can be done just with the regular Move tool. Now when I place these in here, a couple of things that I'm looking for is that it's not so big that it starts to get too close to the other information. Like it fills out all the area nicely, but we still want to have some nice buffer room between both of these so that it feels like it's connected with the text below it and no way connected to the text that's above it. Once you get the size and placement where you want, we can hit Done. Let's deselect everything to see what it looks like. So far, so good. Let's head back over to our Layers panel. I'm going to drag mine off and make it bigger to show you what I'm about to do. Remember, when we place this in here, here's layer 1 that has our Big Boy Burger, so I'm going to rename it. And I'm going to drag it all the way up to the top of my Layers panel and place it in the same rough area as the beefsteak. Keeping all of your like-minded stuff together in your Layers panel makes it much easier to be able to find things if they're in the right stacking order. You don't always have to do this, but it's a good professional practice. With this done, I'm going to drag my Layers panel and dock it back down there. Continuing on, let's do the Grill Master. File and Open. There's Grill Master and say Open. As with the other one, we can use any of the selection tools that you see fit. If you want to play around with some of the other ones, the Quick Selection tool works just like a paintbrush. It allows you to click and drag over like areas, and it may take a little bit of playing around with, but it usually does a pretty good job also of selecting what's inside of wherever you're painting. Just pay attention to where you can see the edge of your outline, and especially if there's any parts in the middle that it may miss. Sometimes it's helpful with this tool to have a smaller brush to get smaller details. So if necessary, go up to the very top, change the size of your brush to be something a little bit smaller. Now you can see with this one, when I go into these little nooks and crannies, I'm able to select those edges much, much better. While it does do a great job of quickly selecting it, it also does a poor job sometimes of contrasting between what it thinks is the edge and what is not the edge. If you ever want to erase away or unselect an area as you're working with this tool, you can hold down the Option key if you're on a Mac or the Alt key if you're on a Windows. Let's see if I can find an area. So in this case, I'll select this one, but yeah, there it is. If it accidentally selects something like the fries in the background, hold down the Option or the Alt and then click on it, and you can see how it nibbles away at that selection. Because I have advanced or enhanced edges turned on, it does a really good job of updating that edge even after I make the selection. Hold down Option, click and drag. Don't want to get all that, but I went too far. Let's reselect this one. The whole purpose of this is to get used to using these selection tools, because once you've got your object selected, once again, we'll copy it, jump back into our menu, and paste it in, and scale it down and place it. That's roughly the same size as that one too, so that looks good. And this one was called the Grill Master. Next is the prime rib. Hey, before I open it up, I can safely close out some of these tabs at the top by clicking on the little X and freeing up some memory. File and open. This time choose prime rib and say open. If you get a warning, say OK to that. And let's select just the prime rib part here. Once again, let's use our selection tool. I want to use the object selection tool. You can see how it recognizes two different stakes. So if I click on one, then I can hold down the Shift key and click on the other, and it will add on to that selection. I do see that it didn't get this part in the middle. So one more time, let's click and drag over this part as we hold down Shift, and it adds on to that. Looking pretty good. All I have to do now is to copy it over. So edit and copy, jump in, and then edit and paste. With this done, we'll scale it down. Later on, if I need to move things around and readjust the spacing of it, we'll do that last to make sure everything looks really good. The other things that we can place in here are going to be our salad and then finally our drinks. Now for the salad, I've got a cactus salad and I need to be able to put it above this particular area. So with my Move tool, I'm going to select this text carefully and then drag it straight down to give me some room. If you hold the Shift key while you click and drag, it'll constrain your movement to be either straight up and down or side to side, depending on what your initial movement was. But by moving this part down, this gives me a lot more room in this area. Let's go up to File and Open, or Place, excuse me. File and Open. Let's choose the cactus salad. And great, that's a good circle. So we'll use our ellipse marquee. Also remember with these marquees, if you start in the center, you can hold down the Option key and click and drag, and that'll give you a perfect circle from the center. Hold the Option and the Shift, and it'll constrain the proportions. And then finally, Option, Shift, and Spacebar will let you move it around until you get it snug into place. Let go of your mouse first when you're ready to lock down that selection, and let's do a copy of it. Edit and copy. Jump back into our menu, edit and paste. Choose your selection tool, and let's scale it down by clicking on the edge of your bounding box. Again, we want all of these to be roughly the same size and placement for everything else. I'm going to place this one little salad right here. Let's scroll up to where the beverages are going to go above group 5. Another way you can quickly open up an image into Photoshop is by dragging it to the Photoshop icon. This especially works if you've got a Mac computer and you've got everything down in the dock, or if you're on a Windows computer, it works the same. Locate your image on your Finder. I'm not in Photoshop, I'm actually from here, and I can drag it down to the Photoshop icon, and it opens up as a separate image by itself. One more time, let's see if we can copy and select all of those over. I'm going to use my Object Selection tool. Remember, with this, I can click on it and select one, and I can either hold down Shift, or I can choose Add Mode, which is the second option here, and that will add on to whatever selection that I have. Do pay attention that it's easily selecting the correct things and it doesn't get the background or any of the little reflections at the bottom. Let's go up to Edit and Copy, and then jump back into our menu, Edit and Paste. If you need to, you can scale back and then put it back up into here. Later on, at any time, we can always adjust the placement, size, and any of the dimensions that we need to get it to fit nicely within these groups. The last thing I'm going to do right now is to clean up some of my layers. For instance, I know these need to go up here at the top. So let's group everything together. And this layer, because I have it highlighted and because I have my transform controls turned on, I can see that it's the little salad. So this is the cactus salad. And that means this one would be the beverages, because when I select it, I can see there's an outline around it. Just call it bevs. This one says layer 1, and I can see that it's the prime rib. Take some time now to zoom out by hitting Command or Control 0. Put my layers back down here. And make sure that everything is nice and centered and well defined on your page. Nothing seems to be too overly big or small, or nothing seems to be awkwardly cropped out. If necessary, make any changes that you see fit. In the next video, we're going to be placing some little borders that go behind each of the groupings for all of the different categories on our menu.